everyone. So in today's video, I wanted to give you an update on the whole room redesign process. So nothing has actually happened in the room yet, but I have sat down with the designers and we've kind of gone over the plan, and I have some swatches here of things to show you. So I thought it would be good to kind of give you an update as far as where things are right now, and also my experience so far in this process, because I've never done anything like this before. I know I am very lucky to get to do something like this, but it's definitely a little bit overwhelming because I don't think I've ever done, well, I've never owned a home before. So then making like larger permanent changes, although I guess most of the changes aren't going to be that permanent. Either way, doing something to my house is not something I'm used to doing, and it does make me a bit nervous, but the team has been great. So let me kind of go back. We've been here now for a little bit over 2 years, so I really know how I use the space in our home. Now, in a city, your home is very, well, for the most part, very narrow. So each floor only has a couple rooms. So up here, for example, we have like this family room area, which I call the plant room because this is where I shoved all of my plants, and my office. And then this is also what connects to the decks on the outside. And there's one guest bathroom up here as well. So technically 3 different rooms, if you include the bathroom, is what is on this floor. And I think we are actually going to change paint in all of them, although most of the changes other than paint are going to be focused on this room. So with the changes we are making, it's mostly aesthetic, nothing like structural. And I know there are a ton of people who'd be able to do all of this themselves, but I do not have those skills, or at least not good enough where I would trust myself to like paint the walls in here and not make a complete mess. But also my brain doesn't work the best with like seeing the final result of something, which is kind of why this room has just become a mishmash of like furniture that I've just kind of had even going back to college. It's hard for me to kind of visualize a whole room, which is why it's been really great working with the designers, because I basically created a couple Pinterest boards that they looked at and then put together like the image on the computer. I'm not going to know all the technical terms, but basically put together the first rendering of what the room could potentially look like. And it's just kind of incredible, the things that they can do in the programs and how those work. So it's been really great getting to work with people who do have those skills and abilities to kind of design a whole room. Now, something else that I was definitely not sure how it would work out is just like overall budget. So I have my own personal budget that I've set for this, and I don't really know how expensive the whole process would be, or if they would recommend things that are really expensive. But for me, that's not important. Most is durability based on the amount of dirt and water I get all around here. But what I really liked about the team that I'm working with, and I'm working with Redesign in Chicago, who was recommended by someone else I know through Garden Instagram, is that they kept a lot of the things that I like in the room already. So like my couch, my chairs, my tables, and are just adding on other recommended things to buy. So like I don't have bookshelves, so I'll have to get bookshelves. I do want to replace the folding table, so I'll have to get a table. So they've put together recommendations for that, but also are keeping a lot of the stuff that I already have, which is fantastic. Also what I like, and again, this was just my having no idea how any of this works, I thought like you would have to get everything they recommended. I know that sounds silly now, looking back on it, but they basically will get all the recommendations for furniture that I can add into this room together, and then I can purchase it at my own pace with whatever works for my budget. Because I think the most expensive thing with everything we're doing will be the different pieces of furniture. I remember when I first moved into one of my first apartments and realized how much just a rug costs, like a large area rug. So those numbers can add up fast if you are getting some new furniture. So I like that they're basically going to create like what the finished room would look like on the computer program. I'm assuming I'll get to keep those images, and then they'll also send me a spreadsheet of all the furniture recommendations. And then again, at my pace, I can go through and purchase those. Also, I can go ahead and go to like thrift stores or antique stores and find things that look similar. So I think that's really great. So they'll kind of put together, or they really have almost put together the entire idea, and then I can kind of create it at my own pace as my budget allows later on. So that was really good to know. It kind of made me breathe a sigh of relief that it's not just all costs up front. So the things that we will be doing kind of as first priority is the paint, because that's what's really going to transform the room. And obviously I want to get paint on the walls before I start getting a bunch of other stuff in here and in place. That also means I have to remove a lot of things from these rooms, but that's going to be like #1 priority. We might change, like there's a place in this ceiling, which is, I think vaulted is the technical term, goes up like this. There's a place for a chandelier. I think they found some cost-effective ones on Etsy. So we might do some things like that, like more of the technical stuff and not the stuff that I can do on my own. So that's going to be the main thing kind of up front. And then, like I said, we'll kind of go through and replace the furniture as I see fit. So let me first show you, I'll kind of go over the paint and the swatches that we are currently looking at. So in this room, I decided I wanted this to be green because, well, I love plants, I love green, and I want it to be kind of like a neutral, which I think green really works well as a neutral. There's actually a sign at the Chicago Botanic Garden that says, "Green is Mother Nature's neutral," and that's always stuck with me. But I really like the idea of a green room. I had pinned a lot of photos of dark green because that's just what happened to be on the internet when I looked for green rooms with like green couches, but I really wanted a light green because even though we get lighting from the east with these 3 windows, I mean, there's a good amount of light, I could always use more, but I didn't want to make the room too dark. So I wanted a light green, and we have 2 kind of different options. I'll go around the room in a little bit, but basically we're gonna do the walls. This is probably not all going to look the same on the camera as it does in real life, but the walls are gonna be a lighter green, and then a slightly darker green is what's going to go in the vaulted part of the ceiling. So again, simple things I never thought of, like, oh, you can use 2 different shades of colors in a room to make it exciting. So right now we're deciding between these 2. I feel so adult, like putting up paint swatches. I have no idea where these are from to tell you any sort of information as far as the colors, except they do have names on them. So it's Herb Bouquet and Cushing Green. And these 2 are a bit more like blue, cooler toned. And then the other 2 we're deciding between are called Kennebunkport Green and Avon Green. And it's these 2. So I don't know if you can tell much of a difference. This is also one of those things where, like, I think the designer's eyes are better than mine, because to me, I'm like, well, they both look good. And then, so this is the other one. So this would be the wall if we go with this, and then this one over here would be the ceiling. I think I'm leaning more towards these just because they're a bit more yellow, and I think that's what I'm going for. But we're gonna do things like paint parts on the wall and see how it does. And I think we're also going to, in the computer program, I don't think it's been done yet, but we can like switch back and forth between those 2 colors and see how it looks on the computer program. So that's really cool. But basically it's going to be lighter green walls, slightly darker green ceiling, not dark green by any means, and then potentially a new chandelier in here. And then in this room, well, actually I'll wait to kind of take you around again to show you what I would keep versus things I will be getting rid of and donating. But the other things that we're gonna do is we are going to paint my office, which is right there. So that's what connects to the other deck where my garden is. And then the guest bathroom. The guest bathroom is brown. It's always been brown since we moved in, and I haven't loved it. So we are also gonna paint that a green color, slightly different than what I have here. I'll show you the 2 swatches in there when we go in there. But for my office, I really like pink. It's my favorite color. So we're going to paint it pink, and I think we've narrowed it down to 1 color, but again, we're kind of gonna wait and see once we get it on the walls how everything looks. And I think there's going to be another different color on the ceiling, but this happens to be the only one I have right now, and it's called Southern Charm, and it looks like it's coming off white on the camera. It's just more of like a neutral pink, so like a beigey pink, because I didn't want to go, let's see if I can make that look any bit like the actual color it is. I don't think I can, but there we go. But it's, yeah, more of a beigey pink, so it's like a neutral. It doesn't necessarily look like, you know, my room might have looked when I was little and it was pink. It looks more, again, like a neutral color, but it just happens to be pink. Other things that we've looked at so far are a new rug, because I got this rug that I'm looking at that I'll show you in a second from Wayfair. I thought it was going to be more of like a fuchsia-y pink, and it ended up being hot pink, which it's been fine. I just don't love it, and I think overall for what I want in this room, it doesn't really fit. But that's kind of how I've put this room together, is just the things I have on hand, or like one random thing I like, and then I'll just hopefully find a place for it, which this is also something that's gonna sound silly, that I've now realized the importance of, since working with people who know what they're doing, is the importance of measuring something before you actually buy it and bring it into your house to make sure it fits or that it looks right in the space. That is something I didn't do. I would just buy something and be like, it'll work. If it's not the right size, I'll make it work anyway. But now I'm actually, you know, paying attention to the sizes of things before I put them in my house so that they all make sense together. But I think we're gonna replace the pink rug with something more neutral toned, just a more natural looking color, because we're gonna have a lot, you know, more color on the walls, green couches, some other color fabrics in here. So I think neutral will work best. Again, this is something that's going to be durable. So if I spill a bunch of dirt on it, I won't care, and I can just vacuum it up. This actually might be, oh no, I was gonna say it might be indoor outdoor. It does say indoor only on the back. But yeah, I'm excited about this too. It's not a very like soft rug, although it does feel like the material that my cats would love to scratch on. So maybe it'll also double as a little scratch pad for them. And then the other thing that I have, so not a ton of stuff, but the other thing I have is just some fabric that they might make some pillows out of. So I think that would be cool. So there's this one here, which is pink and white, and this would be for this room that I'm in right now. And then this one I really like. I think this is my favorite fabric I've ever seen. I don't really have a lot of printed things in here. I'm a person that does tend to go more for just like a solid color, because again, something that's printed, I feel like it's more of a statement piece and you have to be more committed to it versus like something that's solid, like a green couch instead of like a printed couch. I can kind of change how it looks or mix and match it with different things, but I really love this. So it's a light pink background and it has like leaves and butterflies and berries. And we might recover two of the cushions on the chairs that I have because there's like little tears in them and they're just very worn. And then also potentially create a pillow out of this. So that is all that I have for the swatches. I'm gonna take you around the room again. I know I did this in the last video. I'll link you to the last video so you can see the specifics of everything that I kind of went over there and how the room looks. But in here, I'll kind of point out the things I know that we're going to be changing for sure, or that I definitely need to get new furniture for. So this side of the room, in terms of like layout and furniture, is pretty much gonna be the same. So I love these two chairs. These are the ones that I think we're gonna recover, just the cushions with that fabric. I love my green couch. This is the rug that I already know somebody else wants, so I'm going to give that to them. I'm gonna keep like my pots, my plant stands. I don't know what I'm gonna do about this rack because I don't love the way it looks, but I use it so much throughout the year. But I'm hoping at least the baskets I can move off and put onto the bookshelves that hopefully we'll have on the other side of the room. My plant is gonna stay here. I absolutely love that. I might move these two prints into my office room, but yeah, not much is gonna change over here except just like the colors of the walls. And this rug. So now if I just go all the way up, so light green would be here, and then I think the underside of here, and then the darker green would go on this part of the wall, and then all the way up this ceiling. And then that thing that I never knew what it was, see if I can get the light up there, that circular thing is apparently the wiring for a chandelier. I also have a Rogue command hook that I tried to hang some dried flowers from, or like a dried flower chandelier type thing. That did not work. But yeah, so over here, again, not really much is changing. There might be a coffee table here, but that's kind of like far, far down on my list of priorities because these two work, but I might like change these to side tables and get a larger coffee table. But again, that's not near the top of my list. But let me show you what is at the top of my list. So this is the side of the room that I'm hoping will look a lot different after we are done. The first thing that I want to swap out is this folding table. So I have been using this folding table ever since we moved in here, and it's basically been like where I've had plants, where I've worked on plants, where I've made a lot of mess, and I just want something that looks a little bit prettier than this. And this is my husband's, and I can now give it back to him so that he can use it in the ways that he wants to. So the plan I think for here is to get an island height, well, technically is a kitchen island table in here. So it'll be tall so I can stand and work at it, but I'll also be able to sit and work at it. It's also going to be open on the bottom so that I can put, like, for example, on my terracotta pots that are currently in my office, I can overwinter like underneath and it'll look kind of nice. So yeah, it'll be island counter height. And then instead of a random mismatch of chairs, I'll have two kind of, is rattan the right word? Rattan? I don't know how you pronounce it. But two, again, island height chairs that have backs on them that I would probably use if I'm sitting down. And then if I have friends over up here, because I want to have garden parties once this room is like, you know, nice and beautiful. And then two kind of stools that are the same material as the chairs, but because they're stools, I can use them as plant stands when no one is here. So I really like being able to have things serve dual purpose. So I could, like, most of the time have a plant on them somewhere in the room. They'll look pretty. And then when I have friends over, I can move the plant somewhere else and that'll be seating because there's not normally 4 people up here. And then behind, the other most important part of the new furniture will be bookshelves lining this wall. Trying to decide like how many shelves. So we'll be buying like units from, like, for example, like Pottery Barn or Crate and Barrel. I know where the store is at. Most of the stuff is from, I think. But they sell them in like units of 1. So we'll probably do like 1, 2, maybe a third one, all based on size. That's a great thing too with the layout in the computer program. You can kind of put 2 or 3 and see what you like. But that'll just give me storage underneath. So similar to how I have storage right there now with this little credenza, but then also bookshelves above to have more storage and shelves, because I would just love to have all of my garden books, plants, other stuff just on display on those bookshelves. I think that would be really pretty, and storage is definitely my #1 priority for this room. Other stuff, this shelf is going to move, we think, into my office. This table over here that we've had, well, I've had forever, I'm probably going to be getting rid of that. I don't think there's a place really for it, and I'm not that attached to it. They're also going to help me figure out how to hang art so that it looks nice instead of just kind of placed on a bare empty wall. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's just, again, not my forte, like creating all of the gallery walls that I see people do, and it looks absolutely beautiful. And then the other table, this one here, again, we've had this forever, and I don't like that there's just like a table sitting here for no other real purpose than my plants. So yeah, trying to figure out kind of where I will put these once the tables are gone, but I will not miss not having these just kind of sitting there. Also going to get a different rug for here too, because again, I just don't really love, I don't know, how bold that is. I want just more subtle rugs since there's going to be more color everywhere else. I also want to show you, so like I said, I'm probably going to look at some thrift stores potentially for items that might look similar to furniture they recommend, but I just got 2 really cool things from one of my favorite thrift stores / antique stores in Naperville. I think it's just called Naperville Antiques, but let me show you what they are. So I tend to find that at antique stores, now, well, let me preface this. I know there are some very expensive antique stores, and I feel like if you're in Chicago, the antique stores are definitely pricier than outside of Chicago. That doesn't necessarily hold true for all of them, but when I go to an antique store, it's because I'm looking for things that are going to be cheaper to buy than they would be at like a normal store. So something cheaper than I would find at like Crate and Barrel or Pottery Barn. I also tend to find that not only are items cheaper at the antique stores that I go to, but they're also just a lot better quality. So I like those 2 things in combination of being cheaper and better quality than I would find, for example, something from a big box store. Not that they're bad, because most of the furniture in my house right now is from Wayfair and I love it, like this couch, but I really love the cool things that you can find at antique stores. So first is this right here. I don't know if it's technically an ottoman, but I'm planning to put it by these doors out to the garden, because what I want to create is like a little place to hang my coat, put my shoes, sit down and put my shoes on and off. This also could work as an ottoman, because I was looking up ottomans. I'm trying to remember which website it was, and those were like hundreds of dollars, and I was like, what, for just a little footstool? And this was, maybe it was $40, but yeah, not that expensive. I don't mind that it's worn. I like that look of things kind of worn and dented. So if that is something you do not like, do know that sometimes they come with like scratches and things like that. But for me, I like the look of that. And yeah, this is really like sturdy and well made. So I'm excited about that. The other one I'm even more excited about, but also slightly nervous. So even though I don't have a large garden, I find that I still, for some reason, can't help myself getting garden baskets. I do use them a lot. I just don't know if I necessarily need the amount that I have for the size of my garden, but I do find baskets just really beautiful in general. And I was walking out ready to head to the cash register with that little footstool, and I saw this basket. And I really like the depth of it. It's a lot deeper than any of the other baskets that I have. So I thought that would work out really great. And this was only like 20 bucks. And I say that because when I got to the cash register, the person that was checking me out, like immediately was like, oh, this is an amazing basket. Which of the, is it called dealers? Is each person a dealer in their little station? So in an antique store, you know, each person has their own little station. So they asked which one I got it from. I told them they were taking a closer look, and they said, this is really cool. It looks like it was made, well, they didn't say cool, that's the term I'm using, but this seems like it's really special. It's made from the peanut plant, and it's really well made. It's at least 100 years old. They can tell that from, again, this is me trying to remember all the technical things they were saying. They can tell that from the blacksmith work on the handles. So like the nails are handmade and how they're hammered in. I'm not exactly sure, but they can tell this is over 100 years old. It's really well taken care of. They gave me care instructions. They said to spray any dust off with the like sprayers that you use for keyboards, and then once a year take it outside and wash it with a mild soap and leave it out in the sun to dry. So I'm gonna do my best to do that. But I mean, she was pulling over other employees in the antique store to show them this basket. They said the dealer definitely underpriced it. They said if I ever want to get rid of it, to bring it back to them. And as they were kind of telling me all this, I was like, oh, I can't use this in my garden. Like, this is so, I don't know, like so nice. It has so much history that I can't just throw my like dirt covered vegetables in here. I'd be afraid to ruin it, you know, especially with like moisture and things like that. So as much as I love this, and I still really do love it, it is going to be an indoor only basket. I'll fill it with, I don't know, I could just put like dried flowers in here and use it more as a decorative piece. I'm sure there's other things inside that I can just use to store this in, like rolling up blankets or things like that. But yeah, it was really funny. I've never had something happen like that before, where I found something in an antique store that like everyone else who worked at the antique store was really excited about. So that's cool. But that's why I love thrift stores and stuff like that, because you can find stuff you won't find anywhere else that has a lot of history to it. So with that distraction, I'm going to take you into my office, show you kind of what we're thinking there, and then also into the bathroom, which is connected to my office. So here is my office right now. I have my little pothos wall. I have my plant shelf, this chair, a couple rugs. There is the main garden out there, looking very empty. All of my terracotta pots are still up here. I have my other plant, which again, I haven't been taking care of, like continuing the vines, because I will have to take these down to repaint. And then here is my desk. So the main change that's going to be happening in here is, again, the wall color. So this is going to be that pink, and then I think similar to the other room, the ceiling is going to be a different color than the wall. Again, just a similar shade of pink, but like slightly, I think in this case it's going to be slightly lighter. There is also another one of those like chandelier hookup things in there, so I might get a cool looking light fixture, but that's again kind of like further down on my list. I love these two rugs, so I'm going to be keeping them. I love the shelf. I don't know if I love it in here though, so this might actually move somewhere else, and then that gold and glass shelf that was out in the main room will move in here. I think we're also going, because they're really nice, they're like, okay, we see that you have this plant here, we could just like put a shelf, like a free floating shelf up there to keep that on. So I think that would be nice, because I love where this is in the room. I mean, I could even maybe like move it over further this way and have the entire wall covered, but those are things to figure out later. This chair, while I don't mind it, it just is a little bit too big for this room. It just doesn't really fit the space. So I think this is also going to be moved somewhere else. There's some like example chairs that, again, I can potentially order, but I think that's definitely very, very far down on my list. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be putting really any money into this room except for the paint. I might look into getting a better desk chair because this is just a like regular wicker chair and my back kind of hurts sitting in it. I might also potentially look for like a slightly wider desk, but again, all things for later. And then I think the two prints that are out next to my pothos plant curtain would look really nice in here. Because this is going to be, I don't know if modern's the right term, but I really like the main room to kind of feel like more old-timey, classical, and then this one like slightly more modern. I don't know if I'm using those words like correctly with how they're going to describe this, but yeah, that's the plan for in here. And then hopefully I can get all this terracotta off of the towel on the floor here. And then this is the bathroom, and the brown color of the walls, which actually looks almost a little nicer on the camera. It's just, I actually really like the color brown. Oh, hi, I can talk to you here. I actually do really like the color brown in itself. Like I like it in like clothing and furniture and decor. I just don't love it as the paint color in here. So the ones that we are deciding between are these two. I like them both. So again, I don't really have a huge preference. If I'm going just based on name, this one is called Urban Nature, which is perfect for living in the city and also loving plants. And then this one is called Weekend Getaway. But yeah, I think that's the only thing that's going to change in here is, oh no, I'm sorry. That is not the only thing that's going to change in here. Something else exciting, or at least that I'm excited about, is I asked if it was possible to see if we can find a faucet that is a bit taller. So something that maybe comes out just a bit higher and ends about here so that I can fit my watering cans and watering pitchers that I use for my houseplants in it a lot easier, because I can't fit my watering can at all right now if I'm going to fill that up, for example, to water the winter plants. You know what, let me actually talk into the camera instead of in the mirror in the camera. So as I was saying, right now with the height of that faucet in there, I can fit the plastic watering pitcher that I use for my houseplants, but it sits at like an angle. So that means that I can only fill it up about like half or 3/4 of the way. I go water my plants, I go back in there, I fill it up again, but not all the way. And it's not a huge inconvenience. It just means that I have to fill it up more often than I would if I could actually stand it up in there straight and have the water fill almost all the way up. Now, with my outdoor plants, if I have to water any during the winter, obviously the hoses are put away. So I'd rather use a watering can, which has more water volume in it, than my little pitcher. That I have to go down and use the bathtub in our bathroom because that has a tall enough spout. So I would love to just be able to fill it up here and not have to go down and back up. Again, not a huge inconvenience, but like a small change that can add a small bit of convenience, and I like that. But I think it's funny because that was really like the one thing that I've wanted to change just based on how I use my plants. Like, just because I love plants so much, I would like a slightly higher faucet in there to more easily fill up my watering can. So that should be an easy enough kind of switch out. So yeah, and here priorities are just going to be the paint and then the faucet switch out. So I think that's going to be everything for this update. Let me know if you still find these updates interesting. I know nothing like visually has changed yet in the room, but since we are kind of making progress and I have an idea now of like what the room's going to look like, deciding between different paint colors, I thought I would just share that update with you guys. I also know I'm incredibly lucky to be able to do this and have actually like a person who designs for their job come in and help me redo this room. So I am incredibly grateful. I'm also really excited just to have this room function the best way that I know it can, and also look like how I envision it could in my head and be something that I really, really love. I am more of a homebody than a lot of people. We don't really travel too much, or if we do, we like to do like driving trips that are still pretty close by, but I love being at home. So creating rooms that I absolutely love to be in is just something that's really, really special. And I'm really excited to see all of this come together. So yeah, that's where we are so far. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you do want to see more updates. I think I probably won't give another update until like we actually start putting some paint on the walls. But again, it's not going to be like an overall beginning end, since I'll probably still be like getting new furniture, maybe even a couple years from now as my budget allows. But yeah, I think that is going to be everything for today. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.